This audio presentation of Psychoma, or Soul Sleep, by Helen Rhodes is brought to you by audioenlightenment.com. Copyright 2016. All rights reserved. Introduction. The author of Psychoma has written this book out of the fullness of a new and remarkable experience. There are new ideas in its pages, new discoveries that will shortcut the path of attainment for every earnest student who uses the information instead of reading it merely. It is a desire to ensure to every reader the fullest benefit from these teachings that impels me to write this introduction. These teachings and special exercises are not theoretical. They were all first discovered and then tried out by Helen Rhodes during a period of 2 years when, as she wrote me in May 1908, she was at times consciously living outside the physical. Later, they were fully proved by a group of students in New York with amazing results. In other words, Mrs. Rhodes has found what Dr. Maurice Bucke calls the cosmic consciousness. And in the finding, she has made practical discoveries which I believe to be in advance of any other teaching yet put into print. This belief every reader can prove by using the book as herein directed. Mrs. Rhodes used special hours every day, and the result was a deep experience and original discoveries. Use this book faithfully, dear reader, and yours too shall be a soul-satisfying experience and yet other new discoveries. First of all, do not sit down and read the book through. Decide upon a special hour for development to be used every day for at least 2 months. Then keep that daily engagement with yourself as the most important thing in life. This is not impossible to anyone. Don't fool yourself with that plea. Not a man or woman but could arrange to attend a series of lectures or school at a certain hour every day for 2 months. Everyone can arrange to attend to his soul development with the same precision if he will. The results are sure and rich. Let the student take 1 chapter at a time, reading it every day for 2 weeks, reading it slowly with a quiet desire to know the truth. After reading, let him practice faithfully whatever directions are given in that part of the book. Let him not quarrel with what he reads. Let him assume, for the time being, that is all so. Let him accept with a will and aim to see things and feel them with the author. After the 8 weeks of practice, he will know better whether or not there is anything to reject. Did not Jesus say, "Do the will of the Father, and ye shall know of the doctrine what to believe"? And William James says it is at the moment of doing that the brain receives a new kink to correspond. I say unto you, do the will of this book, and you will be glad forevermore. Elizabeth Town. Julia Ward Howe's vision. One night recently I experienced a sudden awakening. I had a vision of a new era which is to dawn for mankind, in which men and women are battling equally, unitedly, for the uplifting and emancipation of the race from evil. I saw men and women of every clime working like bees to unwrap the evils of society, and to discover the whole web of vice and misery, and to apply the remedies, and also to find the influence that should best counteract evil and its attendant suffering. There seemed to be a new, a wondrous, ever-permeating light, the glory of which I cannot attempt to put into human words, the light of a newborn hope and sympathy blazing. The source of this light was human endeavor, immortal purpose of countless thousands of men and women who were equally doing their part in the world. I saw the men and the women standing side by side, shoulder to shoulder, a common, lofty, and indomitable purpose lighting every face with the glory not of this earth. All were advancing with one end in view, one foe to trample, one everlasting good to gain. And then I saw the victory. All of evil was gone from the earth. Misery was blotted out. Mankind was emancipated and ready to march forward in a new era of human understanding, all-encompassing sympathy and ever-present help. The era of perfect love, of peace, passing understanding. Julia Ward Howe. Part 1. Psychoma, or Soul Sleep. Existence as we know it, birth and death, astral, physical, spiritual life, psychic visions, obsessions, subliminal self, transmutation of instincts or killing out, cosmic consciousness. Psychoma. Psychoma is a diagnosis of your own soul, yourself. Before you read further, dwell upon this word psychoma. It is the keynote of existence as you know it. This word is used according to its original Greek root meaning, psyche, the principle of life as connected with the body. Man is a soul, not has a soul. His manifestation is through a physical body for this life experience. Coma means stupor, lethargy. You who think you are so very much alive know that in your present life you are in this coma. This life is a twofold life, not more. It is spiritual and physical with their subdivisions. The physical includes the mental. The spiritual includes the astral and the superastral. All these interpenetrate. The astral plane and physical plane are one with two names. Astral for the thought life and physical for the action life. Spiritual life is the unseen life and functions with an activity normal to its plane and unseen by our physical eyes just as we are unseen by it. Man cannot be cut up into physical, mental, astral, and spiritual man, but he is all these at one and the same time and ensheathed as the unit. The spiritual life measures attainment acquired through two avenues, mental deposit and subconscious agency, the physical body being merely a vehicle of expression, its mechanism drawn from the earth elements of earth, air, and water, belonging to its kingdom and subject to its laws. It has taken eons and eons to produce so responsive an instrument, and it requires years of individual adjustment to acquire ordinary proficiency and precision. Every self enters the earth life with this jacket of limitation around it, the wires for automatic activity and muscle control all unattached and unstrung. Unable to articulate a word, the first few years of existence are spent in simply maneuvering the apparatus. The mental part of man is purely a physical and mechanical medium, a laboratory of external impressions of the physical plane, and has no separate plane or life apart from the physical. It is non-existent on any plane but this, and is the transmitter between the physical and spiritual states. Its mechanism, so dependent upon the physical, that it is incapable of carrying over as heredity quality even the primary knowledge of speech, and closes its record with the life of its one operator. Its mission is to present sensitive plates upon which the physical life experience, the idiomotor content of action, is recorded in a metaphysical language intelligible to both spiritual and physical states, which through the chemistry of the unseen passes over into the subconscious as emotion and will. Our life here is a soul sleep or psychoma, with periods of partial and complete coma, known as waking and sleeping. During both of these periods we are wrought upon by the agencies resident upon these planes. During sleep the soul functions on the subconscious plane, and except during fugitive moments of somnambulism is in a deep physical coma, and reached only through the subconscious. During our waking period we are dreaming out loud. We ask, how did this come about? Herein lies the secret of our earth life. We have all been told of the so-called astral life, that at death we pass to the astral plane, that we leave our physical body here and assume an astral body, and that there we remain sifting out karma until the time for rebirth draws us to the earth plane again, that the astral existence may or may not be a long sleep according to the laws governing our reincarnation. Naturally we ask where we're doing this period of rest. Are we laid aside on some astral shelf to await rebirth? Know then that we are not in some faraway place, but here. This is startling, but this simple fact makes you the liberator of yourself. Physical life is the manifested, astral life the unmanifested, both here. Spiritual life is a distinct life in a higher state of consciousness. The greatest boogie of modern cults is the death symptom. It is a ghost no prophet has been able to disperse, as it depends upon the law of birth. Its protecting shadows veil the sharpest awakening the soul can know, when, by means of the death manifestation, the physical body is laid aside. To the physical eye, the phenomena is a grief, but this death door swings wide into a world of life, different life, where the external transmitter of physical experience, brain and reason, no longer function. The subconscious, the sum total of impressions and desires, now has power. The soul is now face to face with itself, and functions with an activity normal to its plane, unintelligible to the physical eye as we are unseen by it. Into this awful silence of the immanent life, and with all the earnestness the teachings and helpers exert on this plane to awaken the mind and destroy illusion, the workers on the astral plane put forth every effort to awaken the sleeper, and with just as futile result. Hope and reincarnation are altar fires that give strength to the helpers and sustain faith. This is the battleground of desire and reality. This death a temporary awakening. The memory of this impotent, unhinged self with the lust for sensation and momentary glimpses of life without it weigh against each other. Only within himself can come deliverance. The initiation of Pythagoras into the mysteries of ancient Egypt symbolized this new experience of the soul. If it is awakened sufficiently to say, "I know you all, ye host of tares and brood of tempters," then there is no need for such to repeat the life. That which began in him when he began is finished. He hath wrought the purpose through of what did make him man, and he hath felt the blessed last of death when death is dead. This is the hell we dread, where every inherent interest or tendency is a leading string and backward pull toward the life that was. The hell of the astral plane has burned itself into the subconscious instincts of the race since when the first man laid aside his physical body. The preservation of the self has remained the one deep impulse in every rebirth in fear and challenge to the dissolving process. The universal cry is, "Do not let me die." Death is inseparable from life and need be feared only by the sensualist as a breaking up of his dream. The difference between being saved from sin and hell or from karma and rebirth lies in a choice of words. The process is the same. If the dreamy, sensuous longings and thirst for things drug the soul, it issues again upon the earth to live out the unpurged fragment. Those who hope to see us waken from the earth experience watch us sink into coma and call it death. Life and death are the same looked at from different points of view. Each departure is called death on the plane it leaves, and birth by those who watch its entrance on the plane in which it arrives, and emphasizes the fact that this is not all of death to die, nor all of life to live. The sense-struck, sodden self vibrates thought conditions. Slowly the stupor grows until coma is reached, every breath potent with thought magnetism to draw to its kind. It becomes a matrix for manifestation. There is but one avenue for the earth life, through birth, a belief and indulgence which engulfs every instinct and impulse, an octopus that saps its victim while it fattens. Only through the avenue of lust and love of self can an open way be found for the psychoma to be manifested. Like attracts like, and when the conditions are fulfilled to make its shell or physical body, it enters upon the wheel of life to hug and kiss its spokes of agony. During the months of extending its physical vehicle and wrapped in the parent body, it is electrified with its very vibration and nourished on its life principle, which makes its manifestation possible. In the astral world, there are no physical limits, and to enter life as a protoplasm is as natural as to develop a seed. The law of birth fulfilled, the human life phase begins again its intermittent manifestation of psychoma, alternating waking and sleeping in a world of somnambulists, each intent upon his little dream, bent upon self-gratification and ingrown upon itself, unaware that real life is yet to be lived, a life surcharged with universal love. The data for self-stimuli and development through the centuries have furnished certain laws for protection and restriction for community good. Yet how feeble we are to control this wild and fanciful dreamers our jails, brothels, courtrooms, peace councils, and daily newspapers can tell us. Each day a revelry of dreamers so deep in sleep as to commit theft, forgery, murder, and every crime that a thwarted ego may fancy effective in pursuing its fatuous desires. Only through impacts of grief and the interference available on this plane of consciousness can the psychoma be disturbed. The victim of psychoma is under the protection, direction, and help of two worlds, the external with its weapons of sorrow, disappointment, injustice, sickness, all products of the inharmony of the dream life with its desires mirrored in the life surrounding it, and the subconscious world, where unseen helpers companion him with ardent, hopeful application of every known means for his awakening. The subconscious or superconscious mind is amenable to external suggestion, and when the soul awakens to understand this, and uses the power of self-suggestion, he becomes a master in two worlds and elects his own development. Every latent thought and vagrant wish must be brought out into the manifest to test its worth. There can be no separation of me and thee. The psychoma is no respecter of persons. What the vilest is, you have been or may be. The dream life is not to be labeled respectable or otherwise. It is legitimate and is proving worthy to the one who is awakened. Envy not those whose days are spent in idleness, the sheath of self enveloped in the contentment of satisfied desires. Theirs is a darkness into which divine light has not yet penetrated. True growth is slow, By doing and failing and doing again is success assured. In the midst of a large experience, the soul is quickened and evolution is accelerated. No shame is attached to ineffectual results. The seed of the strife lies in the attempt. That alone asks for generous consideration. Draw no lines between appearances. Remember that every thought you may have skillfully hidden from view is illustrated in the life of some other one, they the victim, you the onlooker. Give pity and great love. Maybe through them the light has been revealed to you. And be comforted to believe that the Father of lights loves you as well as he loves them, no better. They are but dreaming as you have dreamed. They sleep and you are awake. Spiritual perception has to do with the beginning of things, while human reason has to do with result. All life typifies one life. The liar, thief, hypocrite are parts of yourself left behind. Against the same backward pull you struggle up to new values. Repression, suppression, or killing out will not determine your awakening. It is wrong to negate our power by killing out anything. We may transform and transmute. Positive power is creative, and when aspiration potentializes vibration, it raises all lower vibration to itself. We accelerate our progress by appropriating high values and steadily and consciously transforming our desires. Self-attainment depends upon our mastery of every note in the divine harmony. Through the scale vibrates immortality, vice, sham, deceit, greed, theft, lying, drunkenness, exclusion, pride. Not until all is understood and dissolved is the soul freed from rebirth. The sense man resents the imputation of psychoma. To him the dream is a thing. Neither can you explain to the insane man that he is unbalanced, so do not expect too much from the dreamer. If he awake even for brief spaces of time, he will recognize the approaching coma as sensation, and desire wrap their psychic folds around him in dim resolve. What lets, ignorant lets, whereby ye take the shows for true and thirst to have, and having, cling to lusts which work your woes. Yet the soul may wrench itself free and reach the sorrowless state lost sight of and neglected many myriads of cycles. In the story of Parsifal, Kundry alternately finds herself doing service in the Grail Castle as its good angel, and in the castle of Klingsor, the magician, as his Rose of Hell. Always before coming under the influence of Klingsor, she is aware of a growing sense of stupor, and as its lethargy steals upon her, she sinks deeper and deeper into sleep. At long intervals she wears out the influence, and in a feeble way regains the path leading to the Grail, and vaguely remembers she has been there before. This torpor symbolizes fugitive upheavals of unlived-out fragments of self-absorption which sweep over the soul to engulf it or exert to some supernormal action. Not until desire is burned out or transformed can the spirit be freed. Obsession is influence to the point of complete subjection. This subjection is not to another unseen entity, but it is the deep calm of self-desire or any sense domination, of joy, fear, grief. The silver cord uniting the spirit with the physical body is never loosened to the point of surrender except at death, and this detachment means death. Only through physical form can any creature function on this plane, and with the same laws governing as govern action on the astral or subconscious plane. Fear of so-called elementals reduces one to the level of crass superstition and negate effort. Self is the only enemy of self, and self the only victor. The struggle is within. The Psychical Research Society has exhausted every device to open the door of the astral realm, but as yet no message has reached anyone that has opened any mine of knowledge, revealed supernormal secrets, or described the activity on that plane interpreted in any terms but of this life. There are profound scientific students who believe all these psychic phenomena to be subconscious phenomena, and it is the evidence of supernormal powers existing in every human being, rising to and manifesting on the plane of the consciousness, which merely means that the objective senses are not functioning and the subconscious senses are. It has nothing to do with a high spiritual life. Many depraved persons are able to enter this so-called clairvoyant or trance condition. Many see without perceiving, and many hear without knowing. To see clairvoyantly is not limited to the one who is awakened. It is a phase of the coma. If, during a subconscious state, the soul was fully awake and cognized its condition and surrounding, Would it not answer the question regarding the next life, what death meant, and would it not direct in moments of trial and peril, telling us how to act? What medium is able to direct future action without the shadow of a doubt? Psychic visions are caverns where lie buried wrecks of incipient thinkers gone mad over thought systems whose bludgeons open all the doors of the underworld and challenges the doorkeepers of innumerable heavens. Mysticism of the incantation kind must yield to the spirit of the century, which flings high and wide the demand for the clearest, simplest laws. There is no need of glossaries, special keys, spheres of consciousness, and superstructures of plane upon plane, and 1,000 intricacies that enmesh the student in a labyrinth of mental whirlwigs. Our inheritance from the past is absolute for us only so far as it yields us proof for every advanced step under the X-ray of scientific research, revelation, and discrimination. Elemental principles and laws are the possession of the adept who reduces them to their last and simple analysis. Clairvoyance and psychic power are not evidence of a spiritual life, but rather the predominance of a superconscious activity which sees and registers conditions of the psychoma when the physical brain remains inert or inoperative. The objective mind is then in subjection. The aura holds, as in solution, the content of individual experience, the arithmetic of which is the brain calculator. If rebirth meant an easy and sure release and promotion, the sensualist might indulge his desires. But to be involved in sense satisfaction is a step that deadens aspiration and increases spiritual anesthesia. If rebirth were unnecessary and a mistake in the world economy, then suicide were a blessing and a privilege. But death does not liberate the soul except it liberates itself. Experience is life when we do not develop alone. We need the all as the all needs us. To cease this experience at any time and at our pleasure means to shirk and condemn the self to a coma controlled by the idea that the welfare of the personal self may be secured by grasping the goal and escaping the machinery of development. There is only one place for the liberation of the sense life, here. This is the place of bondage. Real life begins when this bondage ends. The dream to waken from this, I am this little body, who, looking up into the heavens at the constellations and zones of associated stars, could think for one moment that this rolling planet was the cause and purpose of illimitable space, and that life began and ended here for no ultimate good. Every so-called law of the universe subsisted in that universe before it existed for us. We are not making laws. They were made from the beginning, and as we recognize these laws, we may learn to live in harmony with them. The opportunity of life here is but one section of our infinite nature. You who are awakened today as you read this may seize upon the sex instinct as the only vicious element, perhaps because it is so in evidence or because life seems dependent upon it, that you believe it is the source of all evil. But cosmic life is hydra-headed. One by one the evils are uncovered as bypath to the soul's citadel. Attack the evil that is within your power. Lesser evils are the foothills that lead to the mountaintop. You who hold yourself sponsors for other lives, accept your privilege as a divine agent for the evolution of a soul. No one can escape the earth life. It is a legitimate part of evolution, and the only way for the psychoma to be undermined. Would you ask if the awakened life becomes a dead level of existence, if spontaneity is impossible, if the throb of pure joy is checked? No, 100 times no. It is an antidote for pain, and joy is heightened. No one enmeshed in the desire life can know what happiness is. To the unawakened life is a constant strife. Joy grows out of a personal gain, depending wholly upon the caprice of individuals. Happiness born of sensation is temporary, independent. Only when infatuation, lust, hatred is understood can one know happiness. There is a happiness, an abiding attitude, which belongs to and is inherent in the consciousness. It moves outside and beyond the senses and becomes realization. Realization of the oneness of all creatures, of the oneness of friends and enemies, of the oneness of all worlds, of the oneness of the eternal purpose. This awakening is accomplished through the understanding and use of the law of vibration, aspiration, transmutation, control of the breath, concentration, meditation, affirmation, analyze, awake. Part 2. Transmutation. Sex, law of vibration, control of the breath with liberating exercises, law of meditation and concentration. Men have professed the love of God, of king, of church, of state, of family. A loftier strain in all of these I sing. I love humanity. Divide not and exclude not. Build no wall. No special tie shall bind me from the whole. Love's garment has no rent, it clothes thee all. I love the cosmic soul. I. A. Edgerton. Transmutation. Robert has said, there are inferior truth which minister to life in its operation, intermediate truth which exercise the mind and afford it some satisfaction, and lastly higher truth which enlighten the soul, nourish it, and constitute its happiness. It is easy to say that we seek the truth, but to seek truth implies, first, to apprehend the real, second, to understand the temporal, and third, to harmonize the two, that into the temporal may be released as much of the real as can be absorbed by the soul that is full and full of itself. Spiritual development is masquerading under many names, and not one proclaims the need of omitting material and external evidence of sense satisfaction. The soul eagerly seeks sanction of its desires and adheres with less effort to the one who grants some measure of indulgence. Who is willing to receive a truth that lessens in any particular the pleasure of physical sensation? The point of discrimination is the separation of sensation and reality. There are those who defend the testimony of the senses as sacred altar fires. Do not be deluded. Analyze all experience. Begin to think for yourself. Awake! The love impulse is not threatened with extinction through analysis. The true elements are preserved, and only the spurious drops away. The capacity for companionship is augmented, and the elemental instincts of home and family life fostered through elimination and preserved through reevaluation. Race suicide is not the high watermark of transcendental spirituality. It may be rather the brutality of instinct. We hark back to an animal ancestry with the solar plexus brain governing, and we signify the outgrown life through the germination of spiritual attributes resident in the human. The becoming life is the glory with which the awakened one is in rapport. We are not blind to existing conditions because we attain spiritual sight. We are able to differentiate. Reason is not in abeyance, rather is its power heightened to recognize the sphere of physical activity and the necessity of its functions, and consciously granting its normal development through the informing, educative process of analysis, lifting its satisfaction to a high and refined plane. The gaining of wisdom and enlightenment does not mean the neglect of any duty, the annihilation of any expression of affection, indifference of heart, or exhaustion. It means to be keenly alive to the necessity of feeding the affections with tenderness and appreciation. It makes of fatherhood and motherhood an office equivalent to signing a contract and pledging responsibility for the direction of another soul sunk in psychoma. The awakened one acknowledges the mission of pleasure, knows the environment necessary to psychological development, and denies none of these things, and is able to enter into them with conscious enjoyment. To be involved is not the fullness of enjoyment. The lust of self is the loss of self, the negation and surrender so complete as to involve and unify the entire creative impulse. If the desired life predominate, then the vibration of the solar plex brain controls. But if transmuted through conscious direction, it is merged into another vibration, invigorating and fertilizing any group of cells we wish to cultivate for the expression of invention, literature, music, and the fullness of understanding for any work. We may speculate as to the end of life on this planet should the whole world be persuaded of this truth. Mating would still prevail. The attraction would impel from like motives in mental and spiritual likes and sympathy. Jealousy and covetousness and all their attendant evils would never be possible, because truth would answer to truth, and aspirations coalesce. Your hesitancy at taking the giant swing into the realm of reality will be duplicated for ages. No one, save the truly wise, is willing to turn back even to regain the right road. The goal is not so easily reached that any one truth holds complete sway even for the one generation. World emancipation is first individual emancipation. The psychoma is insidious. The waking hour does not nor cannot dawn at the same moment for all dreamers. Freedom is not to be won through the killing out process. Freedom comes through recognizing tendencies that companion one is a shadow, and will not fall away except they be transformed and transmuted. Mere resistance is of no avail except it be educative and informing. Virtue, when a matter of expediency and calculation, remains vice. Creative energy is at the call of the operator and functions through whatever matrix thought has magnetized. The intricate and delicate machinery of the objective body is little taken into account. Power flows automatically to centers which tap the source through habit. You may unify this vital force and command it to feed the fires of the upper brain, or stupefy and retard it by relapsing into the languor of the clamoring animal nature. Within yourselves, deliverance must be sought. Treat all tendencies as friends. Say not to the reprehensible thought rising in consciousness, "Get thee behind me, Satan," but rather, "I welcome you, my friend. You are my guarantee of power. Come with me into my laboratory of mind and create great thoughts." Then do something, if only to close a window, for any motor activity releases overplus production, and at your lightest bidding you may pour creative instinct dynamic with electric power into any channel and materialize your highest desires. This process is called transmutation and may be accomplished through analysis, breathing, aspiration, and meditation. Concentration and meditation will not give power so long as ignorance remains. Desire and misery will recur until one masters the nature of things. Analysis is a potent remedy and may be applied on every occasion of physical allurement or distraction. One of the surest ways of killing a tree is to lay bare its roots. When the elements that constitute the stream of any individual existence have their source undermined, they cease to originate. And when we cease to preserve, we disinter the origin. Cease to dote on dreams. Awake. Face your own soul and conquer the animal self which dwells in sensation only. Link yourself to the great Oversoul, rather than to human caprice. The soul is not one thing and the body another, neither may one say, "I will indulge my body, my soul will not be involved." Man, body, soul are one in the roots and in fruition. A partnership, which is a unit on the physical plane, dependent upon each other in unison, and simultaneously as factors which constitute the elements of being, not by a part of their number, nor by one succeeding the other. Method in the manner of attainment is a guarantee of success. Power flows easily in grooves magnetized through repetition. Only for a few times is it necessary to whip the self to execute the rules determined upon. Soon action and reaction become partners, and the consciousness becomes duplex in receiving and overcoming at the same time. No teacher has furnished so detailed a method for lifting the self into higher states of consciousness as the Buddha, and Warren, in his Buddhism in Translation, gives this potent method. At the moment of need, at once visualize the body and analyze it according to the elements of which it is composed. Thus it ceases to be thought of as any living entity or individual, but only as so many elements. Through analysis, a mental reflex is acquired that is invincible. Thus are vigor and high pressure conserved. Separate desire from the animal body concealed by adventurous ornament and recognize the essential repulsiveness of the body, and thus acquire the mental reflex, and know that there is not the smallest reason for being pleased. Accurate comprehension of what a man is and what he does prefigures enlightenment. To analyze the body, consider this body upwards from the soles of the feet and downward from the crown of the head, enclosed by skin and full of all manner of uncleanness, saying, "There is in this body hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, flesh, bone, marrow of the bone, kidneys, hearts, lungs, intestines, bile, pus, blood, sweat, saliva, urine." Contemplate upon this and repeat it over and over. Analysis of the body may be supplemented by contemplating the Buddhic law of physical existence or dependent origination. Thus, on ignorance depends karma. On karma depends consciousness. On consciousness depends name and form. On name and form depend the 6 organs of sense. On the 6 organs of sense depends contact. On contact depends sensation. On sensation depends desire. On desire depends attachment. On attachment depends existence. On existence depends birth. On birth depend old age and death, sorrow, lamentation, misery, grief, and despair. On the cessation of birth cease all these evils. Thus does the entire aggregation of misery cease. Thus may one readjust equilibrium and power, gaining in the practice of observing the body, strenuous, conscious of sensation and the elements of being, of the nature of form, the bondage that arises through dependence upon it, how bondage not yet arisen may arise, how to be abandoned and how it may be kept from arising. As analysis is one method of deliverance, so also is the control of the breath and the law of vibration. The law of vibration in the physical world requires no effort of the imagination. Light is a rate of vibration which at a certain speed imparts color, so is sound and heat a rate of vibration. The primitive savage lighted his fire by the vibration or friction produced by rubbing two flints together. Motion is a rate of vibration. Every emotion pulses a rate of vibration. The pulse is the indicator. A thought force vibrates according to the emotional reaction, the physical machinery recording its vibration. If it can be changed by others, it can be ordered by ourselves. We are the governor of the dynamo. Vibration is the unifying element of thought. Like attracts like. Through unrelated but affiliated thought waves, a vibration is produced which swallows up elements foreign to it. This operates for bad as well as for good. When a person senses the lower nature governing, he can readjust himself quicker through the breath than through the management of the mental machinery. Thus are all mental and physical processes reactionary. The mere physical automatic process of breathing is a blind force. It is not mere use it develops, but the amount of nourishment in thought and breath that is circulated. Breath is the energizing force in nature and the vital force in the human organism, consequently the most potent agency for the invigoration of the body. It is the resident power in physical life, breathed in the raw state, where it becomes impregnated and surcharged through the fusion of essential elements, physical and mental, and becomes the magnetic fluid by which circulation is sustained. Congestion and inflammation is obstruction of the breath. This means cell decay and death. The demand is for more breath. Any diseased part demands the conscious spraying of that part with a thought which inflates the cells of that center to response. Thought is the lightning message carried by the unseen messenger vibration, according as the switchboard of the brain indicates the connection. The inward breath used by adepts. The spraying of the body inwardly is a developing process known to adepts for purpose of invigoration, recuperation, and healing. It conserves every atom of energy and is a vastly different thing from merely inhaling through the nostrils and exhaling through the mouth, thus pouring outside of the body all the vibratory essence of psychic equation, which has by virtue of the intake become charged with power. When we take breath, every atom of our being gives consent to the receiving process. We are apt to think that the burden of breathing is left wholly to the orifice in the face, but every cell inhales. When the breath is charged with a specific thought, every atom is subject to it. Inhaling and exhaling are the negative and positive poles of one process, and you may connect all the belts of the revolving mental and physical machinery and become a dynamo invincible. The method of the inward breath. Inhale as from a circle with yourself as the center and the solar plexus as the focus. Hold the breath a moment, then slowly exhale upward, spraying or spreading the breath within and over the entire body. Visualizing the process is similar to the piece of fireworks known as a shower. To heal any organ or to acquire an increase of power, direct the spraying to that organ, accompanied with certain affirmations. To inhale, the organs are inflated. In exhaling, they contract. Beware of drawing in the abdomen except as you exhaust the breath, as this shuts off breath supply. The muscular movement of extending and contracting the abdomen will of itself supply breath without consciously inhaling or exhaling. The singer is able to sustain long phrasing only through the abdominal capacity, and it is the last source to be exhausted and hold its supply normally, as does a rubber ball. Method. Inhale slowly through the nose, inflating lungs, sides, abdomen in turn, following the inbreathing with a mental picture of its progression, focusing and holding the breath a moment at the solar plexus or abdominal brain, which is at the upper part of the abdomen, just back of the stomach. Then exhale slowly upward along the spine and spray, in thought, the entire brain area. Do this at least 10 times. This vibration centered at the solar plexus is so powerful that it will restore equilibrium at any time. For harmonizing the entire body, direct and spray the body and the feet through the mental visualizing, not confining it to the brain, but continuing it as in a circle. To induce sleep, visualize the breath, descending the spine, and carry it downward into and out of the feet. No one who practices this exercise needs suffer from cold feet. By holding the breath at the solar plexus the same length as the inhalation, chills may be averted and perspiration induced. This general exercise may be used at all times by the speaker, writer, worker, or idler, and will change the vibration of the entire body in the quickest time. Congestion, paralysis, constipation, and swelling all yields to this process, as the mass is broken up by circulation and the dead or inert atoms cease to adhere. In fever, the need is to expel the breath from and outside the body. Increase of power is more rapidly gained if the exhaled breath is controlled and released slowly. The distributing station should always be the solar plexus, as this is the center for elemental energizing of physical creative force. Not until the upper brain controls the solar plexus brain can sensation ripen into understanding. How to generate this power, to transmute the separate, irresolute, and erratic currents of thought into direct and trenchant force, is the path out of psychoma into mastership. All exercises are absolutely of no value unless they are a conduit for breath. Inhaling as you begin each movement, and exhaling as the movement draws toward the close, making the moment of the held breath at the solar plexus the center of the exercise. The inhaling and exhaling are the going and returning of the life current, and describe the circumference of the power circle, the inhaling or taking in, to the limit of power, then holding, which is conserving, then letting go and exhaling. This letting go through the positive directed thought is the beginning of whatever manifestation you desire. This is the method for changing every condition. Each exercise should close with a relaxing movement. Normally, this very act of exhaling is relaxation. No teaching is recognized today in any field of study which does not regard this law of creative energy. All exercises are unprofitable unless they carry a thought in solution, refreshing the nerves as well as the muscles. To go through a form without incorporating into it the understanding and circulation is a waste of time. An idea or thought is completed through its angle of action or motor. Just how it is deflected in the brain mechanism is the chemistry of the unseen, but thought always has muscle or motor response. To withhold action sometimes requires more muscle control than action. Extremes of joy and sorrow weigh down the muscles beyond the normal. Idiomotor methods in psychology mean that an idea or thought has specific gravity, which is a scientific psychological way of saying thoughts are things. If then our thoughts have specific gravity, and if weighted with pain or grief, the delicate nerve wires are easily exhausted under the burden of an idiomotor message. But if winged with joy and encouragement, there is an increase of power. By carrying a thought on the breath, the whole organism is stirred and magnetized to a high degree. The personal currents open and expand, inviting supply. There is lack of nothing in the universal energy. The lack is in ourselves, contracting our own avenues and shutting out supply or canceling the creative power through neglect to visualize the thought, fixing it in the mind and breathing upon it as a matrix for manifestation. A daily exercise should comprehend a complete series and involve upper and lower parts of the body, arms, legs, head, clothing with a body movement. But here is involved the great principle of releasing the tension of the body and mind. Each exercise forces increased vibration in the center under manipulation, and it is a mistake and may be a positive injury to leave the energy of the physical dynamo turned upon any center and left there. The idea is to harmonize the entire body. Hence, the series should begin and close with a general treatment for the entire body. Few people understand that the muscles should be held tense or contracted while exercising only when one is unable to take sufficient exercise and to reduce flesh. To obtain power and poise without sacrificing what is already possessed, practice these exercises on relaxed muscles. This is the positive, constructive building up process. The tense muscle is the tearing down process. Invalids should practice these exercises on relaxed muscles, generating and storing up energy. Distraction of any kind may be controlled by management of the breath through inspiration, retention, and exhalation. There are many movements for developing exercise. The need is to have a few effective ones and practice them daily. The following exercise is one of the most important and taught by one of the greatest teachers in Europe for the attainment of poise, deep breathing, and a fine carriage. Carefully follow and think out these movements for securing the open and lifting of the entire body. Number 1. Stand on the ball of the foot, arms hanging at side, rising to the toes as the hands describe an upward and outward circle, reaching the hands out to their farthest limit in front and in line with the shoulder, with each thumb and forefinger held together at the tips. Describe with these fingers tips a line straight out to the extreme sides as if spinning a fine thread. With arms extended, turn palms up, bending the hands over, touching the shoulder with the fingertips, holding them in this position. Bring the elbows straight out to the front. Swing the elbows straight back in place at the sides with elbows bent, leaving hands level with the waistline. Weight on the ball of the foot. This gives perfect standing position with the chest high and advancing. To use this for a general exercise and not merely for position, when the elbows are brought to the sides for the last movement, the extending of the hands to the front, and describe part of the circle as in supplication, thus spraying your immediate environment with the thoughts you desire to see manifested. Repeat from 10 to 20 times. An affirmation to be used with this exercise is, lifting the head and body high. I am open on my inner side to the inexhaustible ocean of infinite love and wisdom. Through the working of this power, I, extending the hands at close of exercise, manifest health or peace or joy, or whatever specific thing is desired. Whenever a change of thought is desired, take this exercise with the affirmation, if only for 5 minutes. Number 2, hands at side, weight on toes. Inhale as you swing arms in large curve overhead, bringing them together in front and touching floor with tips of fingers. Exhale as you go back in same curve. Bend body at waist but not at knees. Repeat 10 or 20 times. Number 3, weight on ball of foot, hands at waist. Keep face to the front. Inhale as body is turned to extreme right. Exhale as body is brought to position. Repeat 6 to 10 times with each side and close with hands on hips. Lower the upper body from the waist. Completely relax and move it into a circle around the body. Number 4, hands at waist. Describe circle with foot as the leg is swung over a chair and increase height as practice grows. 6 to 10 times with each foot. Number 5, hands on hips. Inhale, describe high curve with chin. Moving head slowly and as far as possible to right side, exhaling as return to front is made. Repeat with left side. Extend chin outward and in high curve to as low a point as possible on chest, returning in same curve, exhaling and relaxing. Relax head until it is perfectly loose, then swing it slowly around in a complete circle. This should always close the head exercise. This will destroy a double chin. Begin and close the exercise with number 1 or number 2. For reducing flesh about the hips, in addition to the leg exercise, lie flat on the floor, raising the body to sitting position and lower it without assistance from the hands, always on the breath. The body held in a tense position with the spine stiffened and bent back is not only vulgar, emphasizing the fact of lack of training, but positively injurious through the pressure brought to bear upon the nerve tissue in the spine. The upper part of the body should be flexible, shoulders flat. The first exercise develops a perfect carriage. An additional help may be used by drawing a straight line from the center of the shoulder bone to the center of hip bone. Lift the chest and lower the shoulders. From having control of the breath, understanding how to inhale and exhale, combining breath with thought, the next step is concentration, meditation, through which every separate and divided interest may be unified in a self-directed impulse. Part 3. Awakening. Aspiration, the subconscious mind, law of suggestion, concentration, meditation, affirmation, the silence. Sleep is the great opportunity for development. Verse. If I should falter more or less in my great task of happiness, if I should move among my race and show no glorious morning face, if beams from happy human eyes have moved me not, if morning skies, books, and my food in summer rain knock on my stubborn heart in vain, Lord, thy most pointed pleasure take, and stab my spirit broad awake. Or, Lord, if still obdurate I, choose thou before my spirit die. Some piercing pain, some killing sin, and to my dead heart run them in. Robert Louis Stevenson. Awakening is the being born again, the entering upon a process of spiritual growth from spiritual infancy to mastership, dependent upon a nourishment of food peculiar to its needs. Every normal process of life in nature symbolizes the supernormal needs. As our food grows our physical body, so does that which feeds a spiritual self grow its substance. The food of the soul is aspiration. Spiritual maturity does not happen. The soul only stirs in its sleep at first, from impacts from without, and sinks into lethargy as the experiences pass, conscious only of itself and all the world, as it seeks response in the contentment of material life. Only by constant recurrence of stimuli can awakening come. Just as the connecting paths are made between the brain centers by presenting the same stimuli again and again, and a vibration set up that forces its own track of communication like threads across the soft substance, so in like manner, every thought has its vibratory action of silent force in the subconscious. For every act on the physical plane, there is a cell inflation in the brain, and whatever is expressed is also impressed, and the process is duplicated by the superconscious activities. When a soul is sufficiently disturbed to cognize repeated impacts from without, a regular avenue of vibration is established through which experience is poured to waken the dreamer. The phenomena of a double personality or many personalities is but one man, one soul in partial stages of coma, responsive to some stimuli and dumb to others. The subconscious mind is the potent and unseen magnet polarized to its feelings or emotional self. It remembers and stores up knowledge. It scents danger when none can be seen. It knows where words are foolish. Spiritual apprehension is the thought of which human action is mere utterance. Its own sure guide is the motive and purpose within itself. It obeys and becomes our servant or master just as we elect. When it is fed upon aspiration, it parallels its growth with its quality and environs itself with it. Aspiration is the irrigation of ideals. The magnet for any result is thought potentialized by aspiration. Then you may ask what you will, it will bring it to pass. The method of communication with the subconscious is through the law of suggestion, which becomes self-direction and centered in a thought matrix, enters into relationship with its ideas, and radiating it, grows by its own attention. The subconscious mind sees and is capable of knowing and revealing to us all things, not that it functions on various planes, but that the aura of each person holds, as in solution, the content of past experience, and intelligible to subconscious perception. Apparitions, psychic visions, etc. are believed by many psychologists to be a subconscious perception of things near or remote, as they are or have been, not as they will be. Futurity is not a subconscious faculty. It may discern near events already foreshadowed in the aura. The high-potency life makes no reckoning with psychic visions and apparitions which imperil a dreamer through his own instincts. We are obsessed by ideas, not by dead entities. Bodies are not taken possession of by astral imps. The doorway to this life in the body is through birth and race tradition. The planes are separated by non-conductors, each plane recording its own experience, which is merely an extension in consciousness. Developing positive spiritual power does not lie in the regions of automatic writing or in paralyzing any brain center through self-hypnotism, but in raising the plane of consciousness through a positive process of analysis, proof, and understanding, keeping in the great highway of sane scientific revelation, not sidetracked and lost in the comb of conceit and ignorance. The subconscious activity is forced into action by the mental machinery which, as it works, involves every atom of the person. The objective mind obtains during waking coma and registers its reflexes, emotion, and will on the subconscious. Then, when demands are made upon the will, it responds as it has been trained. True willpower is adaptability. Degenerated willpower is obstinacy. The first belongs to ripe understanding, the latter to childhood and senility. One is immovable and inert, unable to cope with circumstance. The other is educated for response and increased power. The subconscious is a totality of impressions. Fleeting experiences do not register. No action becomes habit. No method resolves itself into principle until it is carried over and lodged in the subconscious convolutions of the psychic body. How to tap its abundant source is to apprehend the law of suggestion. This is a communication with our real self in another and more potent form. No one who is familiar with the methods of ordinary scientific education today questions the law of suggestion. The government of France defends and supports its method for medical purposes in preference to giving anesthetics. The facts of hypnotism prove that the subconscious mind will execute the commands of the objective mind. In therapeutic hypnotic treatment, a definite process is entered upon and the steps outlined by the operator. In spiritual awakening, the goal alone is held before the subconscious, and it is left to itself, to right itself by a light superior to the direction of the objective mind. No one method can disclose the pearl of great price to all questioning souls. Each temperament makes its peculiar demands. There are many ways for many men, but one goal. Among the sayings of Jesus recently found at Oxyrhynchus is the following: "Let not him who seeks cease until he finds, and when he finds he shall be astonished. Astonished, he shall reach the kingdom, and having reached the kingdom he shall rest." In these days of predigested food, shortcuts to a high-potency life are inevitable, but there is no patent appropriation of infinite love. The whole nature is to be returned, and throughout a lifetime we are given opportunities to test experience and reconstruct results. Ask thy lone soul what laws are plain to thee and no other. That is the law for thee. So long as one aspires, daily putting ideals into circulation through the avenues of homemaking, housekeeping, business relationship, keeping much in the open air, there is no danger of morbid introspection. Unless we make use of our ideals, they are nothing but spiritual anesthetics. When the awakening comes rapidly, the naivete overflows with precious truth and will proclaim his way as the only way. Remember, it was your way. It may not be another's way. God is good. He meets us where he finds us and lures us heavenward according to our interest and needs. By living our beliefs instead of talking about them, we win where words would lose. Let development have her way, and your own will come to you in joy, work, love, and prosperity. You can have no permanent values until you radiate a vibration that draws the demand for which you are the supply. You must be the magnet that attracts. You yourself are it. Be still and know. Do not demand nor limit the action of another. A mother longing for a letter from her son, long overdue, grasped his photograph, demanding with intense feeling that he write to her at once. He wrote that some hour a cruel, defiant, graceless letter. If she had been patient, sending out continued love and no restrictions, a different mood might have dictated a different letter. If you are a worker, do not think you can make another person buy your work. Mental sandbagging meets with mental resistance. They will get your thought above anything you can say. You exchange subconsciously. You cannot go out and attract friends. You must be the magnet that attracts. You cannot transfer the thought matrix to another and command its growth as you must when you order your own power. Do not attempt to control another. Do not try to make of yourself a special providence to everyone you meet. Wait until you are asked, lest you be considered an obstructionist. The form of suggestion should be for self-awakening and development to increase and intensify one's worth. The world pays for the best. Go in to win, in yourself, not to hypnotize anyone else. You will not need to. Do not separate yourself from your work. Your work is you. Put yourself into it. It is then alive and attracts attention. Send out thoughts of love and freedom to the whole world to help, but not for personal influence. You need all your time for your own mental house cleaning. Adverse currents are playing across your life constantly, and as you add to the power of good, you subtract from the power of evil. When knowledge of this human dynamo is the common property of the race, becomes so through centuries of subconscious consent, affirming involuntary action on the part of the mind, refusing the unfit and knowing the good, we can hope to have a responsive mind as we have a physical body. It has taken centuries to produce subconscious regulation of the circulation, and it will take centuries more for the gathering of truth sentiment sufficient to manifest natural and easy discrimination. And by added reincarnations, the final truth of cause and effect become a law in the perceptions. There is more in life than a cut-and-dried philosophy adapted as principles behind which small souls retreat with an air of superiority whenever a difficult situation demands vigorous, broad, and sympathetic treatment. Truth has been called by Professor James a species of good. As such, truth becomes a process, not one small notion nor any one dogma, and it permeates all acts and filters through all effort. It is a becoming process, not a fixed state, adjusting and readjusting as higher values emerge and release higher forms of truth. The reflex of intellectual conviction is stored in the subconsciousness and becomes our power as initiative. The psychoma is buffeted through new applications of old truth or species of good, these experiences being the alphabet of the divine vocabulary, through which we learn by constant analysis the laws of life. We learn to know when there are open doors, when we should go and come. We allow small truth values to demonstrate themselves through every experience, rising higher and higher in perception as augmented data clarifies vision. This is a clairvoyant sight which is positive awareness, not psychic negation. We cease hurry, we dare to wait. We learn to know that success must mean some addition to the sum of human happiness. We have the courage to count the worth of ideas before money. A truth, therefore, is not absolute, rather is it relative. All truth is precious, but not sacred. Nothing is more sacred than the awakening from the soul's sleep. This is the fruit of truth. It is not a question of facts, but of vision. Each man becomes an individual explorer into the deeps of his own life. Faith is an unseen guide, the symbol of light in the visible world. Physical life is the ego exerting itself into matter, and it withdraws with the result of the effort. The self would reach into the unseen and demand the consolation of the reassembling of its family, or such members of it as are agreeable in a future state. Awake. Life is experience. You needed just such human relations to develop and awaken. Don't cling. Another life will draw you into another filial relationship and obligations with another family. All life is a brotherhood, so give to every living creature sympathy and love. Be observant of hindrances. They are friendly. When the inner process of thought is making use of aspiration and meditation, one need give no anxious attention to obstacles. Constructive thought leaves behind all that cannot be used in the upbuilding process. All instability, anxiety, uncertainty, and pain are ways for producing a full-fledged, self-poised human being. And when sorrow has done its work, release will come. But wait patiently, let the law work. We would like to say when the release will come, but we do not know. Prepare the soil of your own nature for the incoming peace. It cannot enter until strife is stilled. The silence is the secret place of the Most High. It is the Most High place, your Most High. Higher than that we cannot go now. It is the meeting place between the human and divine. No prophet has divined a relationship between the Creator and the created that transcends God as a loving Father and we his children. Know that the Father knows what is best for you, that while he works you also must work and supplement his work. Pray unceasingly, and when you say, "Thy will be done," get behind that statement, and will that God's will be done. Make it your strongest affirmation. This is not to be taken in a spirit of resignation and renunciation, but for positive accomplishment to which you may tack your highest and deepest motive and hopes. Renunciation is an unhappy word for outgrown impediments. We easily renounce what we have outgrown. To renounce is to let go, and may be a positive process in acquiring power, and not negative resignation in any sense. Professor James calls prayer commerce with God. The very attitude is subjective. You make yourself negative to the highest good of which you are capable of receiving. Say often, "I am negative to God alone and positive to all the world." You do not want second-hand thoughts. You do not need to be on the wires for warmed-over transmitted messages. Tap the source. Go direct to God. Talk to him. This is the Spirit of Truth, the Comforter, the Holy Spirit. Such a life is not a passive life. Awakening is alertness, awareness. The coma yields to perception. You do not need to get into the silence. You earn the silence through concentration meditation. Concentration meditation is an advanced step which begins where breath control leaves off. From having control of the breath, understanding how to inhale and exhale, the power of thought to develop harmony, now begins the development of the power of concentration and meditation for specific needs. Concentration is defined in chemistry as to intensify in strength by removing valueless constituents. Meditation is to fix in the mind. Concentration of thought force is a composite blending and coordination of fugitive yet affiliated impulses. The polarization of any thought center guarantees the dissolving of every unrelated and undesirable element. Intentness magnifies that thought center, and a mental reflex is obtained which constitutes a demonstration. Concentration is a positive condition, and meditation is the negative. Concentration first selects, reasons, determines, then it invites the subconscious through meditation to give up its secrets. Through the silence of concentration comes the stillness of the mental machinery, and the conscious mind demands and affirms, then waits and suspends action for meditation to yield its answer. The one goal is the cultivation of the subliminal self so that it may direct instead of being directed by the objective physical mind. The subliminal self could do all things and tell us all things if we would educate our motives to express truth instead of expediency, and whatever its bidding, it will be modified by the dreamer's capacity to understand and rightly value truth. Going into the silence is not an experience given over to devotees. It is a normal, conscious process for self-development. It cannot be appropriated, it must be earned. There is no other way to reach it except through concentration and meditation. Whenever there is a failure to realize the silence, there has been neglect in preparing the way. The conscious and the subconscious are distinct and unrelated spheres of consciousness. Through concentration meditation is sought the union of the two. The most important consideration is to have a certain time and place. If it is possible, have a tiny room for this purpose, with nothing there but a table and a chair, or prie-dieu, a picture or symbol upon which the eyes and thoughts may rest in inspiration. Most important of all is to have a definite time. Then keep that appointment with your own soul. It is your waking hour, a precious moment. Be as regardful of this moment as you would to any demand from a friend. Enter into this communion as expectant as you await the ringing up of a curtain of a play. When you have established an intimacy with your own soul, there will come a time when you require no set time or place to enter this cosmic peace, but every unoccupied moment, the time spent on streetcars, and every moment of waiting will give this opportunity. You concentrate when your whole interest is involved. This is induced through forcing the attention to follow certain methods until externals drop away. There is no more effectual method than to close the eyes and observe mentally one's own breathing as given in transmutation, following as an appointed guard on duty, slowly visualizing the process and silently saying, I now inhale with the lungs, now with the diaphragm, now the abdomen, now centering the solar plexus. I exhale with the abdomen, now with the diaphragm, now with the lungs, ending with spraying the thought and breath upward along the spine, and then as in a shower over the entire body. In training the attention to consciously follow each movement with accuracy, in a few moments distractions cease, and from the forced manipulation of the breath quiet comes, and the matters about which you desire knowledge may be focused in the mind, and one by one the questions considered reasonably, quietly, firmly. Say, I seek to know this and this, naming what you are working on. At first work for conditions, not things. Seek to manifest peace, joy, harmony, health, and take but one statement for meditation, varying the statement from day to day as desired. When you resolve to awake, you will mentally assort during concentration your inclinations, capacity, and avenues open to you. You can concentrate upon and cultivate successfully but one line of work at a time, and every bit of experience will assume a possible relation to it. Slowly analyze your problem step by step, pushing effect upon cause back to the starting point. When reason has done its best, slowly relax through the measured breathing. Release all responsibility. Let go of the world and ideas and say, I now release through my conscious mind the wisdom regarding, and then mention the subject under consideration. or I rise into the realm of all knowledge and ask to be shown the way. Then sit in the silence and enjoy it from 10 minutes to 1 hour, feeling yourself the center of the circle with all distractions far out on and beyond the circumference. This is meditation and the silence. Confusion is on the circumference. Get back into the cosmic peace and abundance and let go the entanglement of cross purposes. You cannot attain concentration on nothing, and you cannot maintain meditation on nothing. The silence is dynamic with awareness, which polarizes on the plane of aspiration. You may raise your vibrations to whatever level you desire. Feel the stillness of your thought, your body, your being, the universe. Feel yourself the center of that universe. Surround yourself with the inhalation of the Spirit of Truth or God. Take a spirit bath in its clarifying atmosphere. See none but yourself and God. Inspire the universal will, and so magnetize your consciousness with your oneness with God. So shall your entire environment vibrate with power to draw the highest to you. Through your union with the silent brotherhood of thought, a vibration is intensified, which includes you in this rhythm. You become a channel for all like motives, and the focus is on your environment. Friends, home, all material things respond to the live vibration. Congestion is confusion and disorder. I know of no more powerful corrective than forcing oneself to keep one's belonging in perfect order and condition. Disorderly closets and bureau drawers are demoralizing in a real way. Every outward symbol of sense deeply enough to be felt images itself upon the subconscious, which in turn reflects itself in events. To invite prosperity and to have a part in the circulation of money, your own circulation must be free from congestion. Hoarding things makes a plague spot of decayed cells. Attics and trunks stored with unused things are a menace. Distribution and order is the law of inflow and supply, no bargain days except for needs. Affirm, I give and receive money freely. This does not mean indiscriminately and wastefully, but wisely and well. We sometimes make too much of money when we say we do not want it, because we do want our needs supplied, and merely saying it does not convince. One does not acquire spiritual power because he is rich or poor, but in spite of it. The joy affirmation does not remain in the ether, but must be manifested. So with peace and health, these conditions involve material processes and can do and manifest as money. Fill yourself with the elemental source. It will assume as many shapes as your needs dictate. Whatever thought you wish realized, think intently with the whole being, soul, and body. This law is inherent in every life. The dreamer produces a dream parallel to his awakening. The condition of manifestation is to be, rather than to merely believe. To be involves bringing into subjection every faculty to be able to order our thought atmosphere and concentrate at a moment's need so that negative conditions shall immediately resolve themselves into positive conditions. In short, to polarize every separate and divided interest into an undivided universal spirit. Music study would cease to be drudgery if the pupil would be taught to read the music silently, feel the melody, get into the rhythm, and then play it. All study would yield double returns if one entered a subjective state for a short time before trying to think or write. You do not need to use force. You obtain the silence and then speak your desire. Through the silence, a strong desire makes connections with others and needed factors. The result may not be anything we counted upon, but unexpectedly a turn in our affairs is accomplished. All education and development are subconscious. Whatever book is studied, turn its pages as you impress certain statements upon the mind, saying, I bring into my conscious mind the knowledge of blank, or now do I draw from my superconscious mind the knowledge of this, or now do I bring into manifestation my knowledge of blank, or I give forth what is in me. If the mind wanders, reset it 1,000 times if necessary, and know what you are thinking about and why. Spend no time in denials. An affirmation holds within itself a denial. The only form a denial should take is to direct the subconscious to let go of certain tendencies, saying, I let go of fear or sickness, etc. This is a command without the use of not. The physiological process forces inflammation of the group of cells corresponding to the thought center. If such a group is inflated through denial, then you have made one more obstacle in the way of affirmation. The nighttime should mean opportunity for supplementing our work and wisdom. The cessation of the physical function releases the soul from its control and limitation. The experiments of Professor Elmer Gates at Washington are open to anyone, and the experiences of inventors and students have given us data for the subconscious activity. Not long ago, a student spent half the night trying to solve a problem. Worn out with repeated failure, he went to bed. When he awakened in the morning, he found the problem completed on the paper that he left it. He realized that he had been a somnambulist, and that his subconscious mind had given up the knowledge he had failed to perceive. In the days when witches were burned, this would have been credited to witches or to a spirit who had intervened to help, but we now know better. The soul does not go to the Himalayas, nor London, nor some other planet. It is here, but released from the limitation of the mental and physical machinery, and awake on its own subconscious plane, where feeling is sight, will is understanding, and perception is hearing. You do not send your soul or subconscious mind out. You, yourself, go, or rather, you awake subconsciously. A last thought to float in the consciousness is, I go tonight to seek wisdom and to manifest it through my conscious mind. If some special need exists, say, I go tonight to connect with work or money or whatever, and bring it into outer manifestation. For a long time, the naivete would better confine himself to charging the subconscious mind at the moment of sleep with, I seek wisdom from the infinite source. Be not too hungry for things. The purpose of sleep is not merely to rest the body through the suspension of the mental machinery, but it is a dream just as full of activity as the waking dream, and we may double our power and usefulness by directing it. The daytime is nothing compared to it. When the power of self-direction is understood, the daytime will be used as a secondary condition in which the objective consciousness waits to receive and adjust the results accomplished during sleep. One need never worry nor hurry, simply affirm and wait, never passive but with the perception active in the highest degree, making ready for the manifestation of the thing to be wrought out. We should lie down to sleep not from weariness, but because we wish to go consciously into the subconscious alive to the importance of receiving what it has to give. Welcome sleep as a privilege, taking time to lay aside all worry, anger, fear, grief, that the soul may be impressed with a clear and definite message. Then ask of it what you will, so you require attention to but one thought at a time. Keep that thought uppermost and insistent, that it may float in the margin of consciousness and unify the impulses. Say, now do I draw the wisdom of my inner life into my conscious mind. Or, now do I draw from my inner life the knowledge of this. The time wasted in undirected sleep might be used in working out all life's problems. The subconscious is not tired. Night is the daytime of the soul on the subconscious side. The student, writer, artist, inventor may educate himself while he sleeps by directing the subconscious. Say with the last waking thought, I demand that this knowledge pass into my consciousness. Or for health, say, I restore my body tonight, or I now renew my entire being. Supplement this tremendous power by meditating upon the same subject during the appointed silent time. The desired knowledge will flow to you, or when you take up the subject upon which the subconscious has worked your thoughts will come faster than you can well manage them. Demand specific things if need be, but we sometimes get what we ask for and wish we had left it to a higher power. When the high-potency life rules, the moment of waking and the beginning of the day should enunciate a statement of rejoicing and thanksgiving regardless of our personal opinions. Through the night, unseen helpers have companioned you. Now expect the unexpected. Affirm and wait. Your own is on the way to you. You may not enjoy hunger in various phases of incompleteness, but expect and affirm and work. As you wake and say, I greet the day with love and send forth joy and peace to all the world. Or I drink in infinite life and I breathe out infinite love. Always try to make a complete circle of your affirmation by including a receiving power in its manifestation, as, I receive life from the divine source, and I now manifest health. Constant affirmation keeps one positive to all less than the desired good. In the Revised Version of the Bible, Psalm 127:2 reads, For so he giveth to his beloved in sleep. This bit of ancient wisdom is suggestive. Keep your material needs, if possible, for the daytime meditation at first, and at night lift yourself into the realms of wisdom. The superconsciousness self is a storehouse of wisdom gathered through countless ages. Each for himself may gather from this infinite supply. Part 4. Mastership. Cosmic consciousness, pragmatism, special keys, happiness, dominion, realization, healing, and awareness. It is possible that some stupendous incident may suddenly surge from without, from another world, from a new phenomena, and either inform our effort with definite meaning or definitely destroy it. But we must proceed on our way as though nothing abnormal could ever befall us. Did we know that tomorrow some revelation, a message, for instance, from a more ancient, more luminous planet than ours, were to root up our nature, to suppress the laws, the passions and radical truth of our being, our wisest plan still would be to devote the whole today to the study of these passions, these laws and these truth, which must blend and accord in our mind, and to remain faithful to the destiny imposed upon us, which is to subdue, and to some extent raise within and around us the obscure forces of life. None of these, perhaps, will survive the new revelation, but the soul of those who shall live up to the end have fulfilled the mission that is preeminently the mission of man, must inevitably be in the front rank of all to welcome this revelation. Matterlink, the life of the bee. Mastership. Mastership means the attainment of cosmic consciousness, a oneness with infinite purpose, the letting go a handful to take hold of a lifeful, to realize the happiness of emancipation won through knowledge of what man is and the supremacy of the high-potency life. The awakened one knows the victim of the psychoma and adjusts himself to it as a person under the influence of morphine. His one hope is that he may awaken. To understand is to possess a self-commissioned life for the awakening of thousands from the death sleep. Mastership is not sati, nor uni, nor renunciation, no, none of these things. It is awareness. A vigorous, enlightened insight and recognition, invincible, unquenchable, inexhaustible. It knows what the mental apparatus fails to register. It divines what physical sight conceals and contradicts. It vibrates and energizes to the eternal purpose. It is in union with all that is. The cry of the awakened one is, "Give me wisdom." The natural instincts which function easily in some persons toward justice and kindness are so because previous lives have demonstrated that it pays. It is the road to the soul's happiness, and that much has been proven. Happiness is as primitive an instinct as hunger, and by repeated trials a kind of happiness is found that pays. It is not preserved as a virtue, but by pure elemental self-protection. Just to live becomes as real a pleasure as to the one who is lost in the pleasure of living. He perceives the profound elegance of simple things, food, friends, daily doing of common things, retracing all the byways of youth, finding infinite pleasure where before was pain, because he knows now it was his way of development. Freed and separated, he guides his life along the shoals that threaten other lives, with his heart full of song, secure in the superconscious perception that all is love, yet all is law. Happiness belongs wholly to the subconscious. It is a reflex, and its response is secured just in proportion to the average of truth values we have made our own. When once the habit of analysis is adapted, the non-essentials drop away like starved parasites. The affections and mimicry of conversational boredom give place to wholesome silence, vocal with voiceless resolve. Ideals are wrought out alone. We need to know, to discriminate. We need to reprove, to refuse to give our sanction to what we believe to be wrong, to have principles and to anchor to them, and above all to cherish ideals, but to also know that life is fluid, and only as we become atrophied and senile do we cease to move from ideal to ideal. Ideals are high watermarks of the soul's capacity to apprehend the superconscious message. Never allow a mean discontent to grow upon you. Whatever your situation, dig up the good in it. It is always there. And realize that when you have drawn from your present environment all that it was intended to mean to you and contribute to it what it was meant you should, the dissolving process will manifest your further needs. We are no better than our environment until it or we change. A superior understanding forces a superior condition. As fast and as soon as we are aroused from our coma, we polarize ourselves to attract new values. The happiest moments you can ever know will come through glimpsing your own ascent through the cosmic consciousness. If your thoughts are unkind, ungrateful, fault-finding, and full of fear, you are magnetized, because centered through deep feeling, to attract these very things to yourself, and you may caught in a holocaust of personal disappointment. Only as an attitude becomes deep feeling will any change be possible. Mere surface distinctions will never disturb the coma. Happiness results from the freedom and power to multiply experiences from unexpected opportunities, to share life with other living things. Deep coma means to be separated and isolated, intent upon the self. Exclusion develops at two periods of consciousness. First, as it is lulled to sleep through conceit of its own importance by difference of education, money, or clothes. Finally, as the soul grows conscious of opportunity and sees itself in true proportion, as a son of the good God, with hands, feet, mind only as a means to enter into the service of man and for the benefit of all. He possesses an overflowing fount of happiness can be tapped by no man. A man demands his happiness on the level of his consciousness. A master does not find his satisfaction in that which may entertain an infant. Dare to be alone. Analyze the mass. Know what ministers to your happiness and seek the highest. Be not afraid to withdraw from the groups of social circles if you have ceased to find happiness there. The law of the ascending life is to allow it to advance. Few people really love the silence because they are beggars in resources and unacquainted with the power which demands the attitude of listener. A master seeks the lonely places. A metaphysical or mathematical system educed from the Bible may be interesting, but it is a parody. The science of mind needs no apology today. All the heavy artillery of scholarship is turned upon the mental apparatus. Man has an immense evolution behind him, and the study is illuminating. Men dare to laugh at the one who presumes to defend a system as a special divine revelation from God. The scientific world adjusts its psychology to such types of mind, and with its academic finger on the pulse of developing tendencies, can trace with exactness the fevered spasms of self-importance which leads a person to announce himself or herself as Elijah or the woman clothed with the sun. Freaks are spasms in preserve. The Hebrew literature has been a handy volume with which to inspire awe and arrogate authority. You do not need to sign away reason and break with all your relationships in the world of progress, because suddenly you have awakened to the power of autosuggestion. The real fact is you have touched only one of the laws in world economy. It is not the all nor the ultimate. Unity must be sought through relationships, vast enough to include all experience, scientific, historical, religious. Any system which places restriction upon your thinking, seeking and proving, pauperizes you. Take your private system if you will, but do not think for one moment that you are in possession of any knowledge of what the Bible is, its meaning, or its history. More knowledge will help you to understand that it takes one with the spirit of the trust to exploit the Bible as a private scheme. We need to know what is fact lest we make a fable of it all. The student, as every known field of knowledge, plods and assorts his findings, widens and deepens all his resources, and never shuts off the light nor burns his bridges. The Bible is the autobiography of the Hebrew nation. It might have been dug up as was the Mormon Bible, or written by one man as the Quran was, instead of being written by many men covering a period of several hundred years, weaving in its tradition and myth for the purpose of teaching and preaching, rewritten and re-edited according to the need of the prophet's lash in correcting prevailing evils. Some parts of the Bible were written as late as 165 BC, and Genesis was re-edited and put into its present form about 445 BC. How do we know? Assyriology has been born during the last 20 years, and from her buried treasures of palaces, enormous libraries, tablets of legal documents, accurate system of chronology, we have data interchanging across Palestine on its way to Egypt, which returns to the complement by uncovering in 1887 the Amarna letters written 1450 BC by a vassal king in Palestine to his Egyptian monarch, revealing a civilization anti-dating by several thousand years the colonization of Palestine by the Hebrews. Historical criticism tethers fragments to wholes and distinguishes its age of literature by the variation in its language as easily as the geologist dates the rocks or the student distinguishes between the English of Chaucer and that of the 20th century. The bubble of unlocking the Bible by special keys is pierced by an exegesis which enables one to recognize certain inherited ideas, customs, and language. This method interprets the meaning of Scripture in the thought of the writer. The allegorical interpreter is concerned with its spiritual lessons, wholly distinct from the thought of the writer. The mystical interpreter scorns the lexicon and grammar and sees only what it means to him. Dogmatic interpretation is concerned with only what defends a certain doctrine. The historical method seeks the meaning in the thought of the writer, to know the situation which gave it birth. the ends to accomplish, the political, moral, social, and religious life from which the book sprang. Within it are truths valid for all time, requiring no interpretation save the direct appeal to the conscience, for it is the literature of a people saturated with the God consciousness, and a revelation of elemental man with his face toward God. It is a treasury of race experience, and not a collection of infallible oracles and cunningly devised fables. History is God's one great method of teaching man. Its abiding lesson is that sin is punished and virtue will have its reward. By experience with great men of the past, our life is stimulated and nourished. This study soon leads to the discovery that the Bible throughout does not present the same conclusions of God, nor the same standards for moral conduct. The Bible is not a history of the world, but of Israel's traditions. There are those who have thought they could not be Christians and know anything about psychology, while the fact is you cannot be as good a Christian without it. It pigeonholes experiences that is live data. The Bible pronounces no anathema on electricity, and the uses of steam or upon any line of achievement of which the ancient Hebrews had not the slightest notion. Yet they are not the less useful on that account. You need to understand your material and have the knowledge that comes through scientific research, history, and religion. Both natural and individual life swings around a center. The center of the Hebrew life was God, and when the people swung far out on the circumference of life's fascination, their prophets called them back and centered their lives again. That everlasting rounding up of a life is sacred history. Other nations center in the derby and motor cars, yet one by one an individual steps out, detaches himself from the mass, and disintegration is arrested in spots. The intellectual awakening of this century will not be put off by the conglomerate metaphysical frappe. The revelation between cause and effect has revealed a power resident in every man to bring things to pass. The hurry habit makes the spiritual life the specialty of experts who furnish a concise formula for its possession. The one who seeks bargain sales for spiritual outfits grows impatient as he realizes that the spiritual life is a process and not a plaster. Only by blending to be and to get into begetting or becoming can the transformation take place. Physical culture would make man the reflex of his diaphragm. Electric healing would resolve life into human electricity. All good is forms of suggestion which may or may not lead to awakening. The one sure way is to analyze the self. This should never become morbid introspection, which is another word for self-love, and a dislike for thinking the self ever at fault. Analysis has been so little used that the word has almost become fossilized syntax, and now pragmaticism takes its place as a brand new word and lends its name as sponsor to the thing worthwhile. According to Professor James, a psychologist, the pragmatist accepts the world as an inheritance which obligates each generation to leave it to posterity in an improved condition. It has no dogmas and no doctrines, but a method for arriving at truth, which it calls a species of good. Pragmatism unstiffens all theories by setting each one to work. It entertains any hypothesis and considers any evidence and offers a free field even to theological ideas if they prove to have a value for concrete life. It assumes that any new knowledge is absorbed in terms of past knowledge and that primitive ways of thinking may not yet be wholly expunged. That our fundamental ways of thinking are discoveries of exceedingly remote ancestors which have been able to preserve themselves throughout the experience of all subsequent time, and that all theories are mental moods of adaptation to reality. That the possession of any truth is not an end in itself, but only a means of vital satisfaction. There is no absolute truth, but that certain truths work out in the course of experience. It argues for a universe unfinished, growing in all sorts of places, especially in the places where thinking beings are at work, rather than the idea of a universe eternally complete. An edition deluxe with duplicate editions full of false readings, each mutilated and distorted in its own way. Pragmatism asserts that we cannot reject any hypothesis if consequences useful to life flow from it, that every ideal realized is one moment in the world's salvation, and that a man should be willing to pay with his own person if need be for the realization of the ideals which he frames. Professor James closes his book with these words: I firmly disbelieve myself that our human experience is the highest form of experience extant in the universe. I believe rather that we stand in much the same relation to the whole of the universe as our canine and feline pets do the whole of human life. They inhabit our drawing rooms and libraries. They take part in scenes of whose significance they have no inkling. They are merely tangent to curves of history, the beginning and ends and forms of which pass wholly beyond their ken. So we are tangent to the wider life of things, and may well believe that higher powers exist and are at work to save the world on ideal lines similar to our own. Pragmatism, then, becomes a class name for various working values and experience, analyzing ideals as they work out in life with a spirit of reverence, love, and wisdom. It welcomes unity on the basis of diversity and usefulness and safeguards its conclusion by fearless searching analysis. The awakened one seeks prayer as the most high place where he may renew his life. If prayer preceded every meditation, every act of healing, every work attempted, the way would quickly uncover itself, because the vibrations are centered around positive domination of good through the quiet process of spiritual energy, without the effort necessary in manipulating the mental and physical currents and controlling the outward energies. Prayer unites us in a common rhythm with the infinite love and law. God is able to do for us far more abundantly above all that we can ask or think. Each may supply for himself another word for God, if it would more adequately convey his conception of the infinite energy. Professor Edward Everett Hale has written a most interesting account of the part prayer played in a certain experience of his. He began by seeking during the day 1 hour of perfect solitude in when he might make the experiment of prayer. He writes, "As the week went on, I began to be conscious of a curious change in myself, which I did not and do not explain. My pleasure in the many interests which made up my life began to diminish and became dull. Instead of desiring to finish up the duties of life to turn to its pleasures, I found that for the time its pleasures had little interest. Art, literature, scholarship, the theater, the various things that had filled my mind lost attraction. Plans and ambitions of one sort and another no longer interested me. I felt no special lack, however. I believe I was conscious of a greater interest. Prayer disclosed an eternal harmony and gave life new value in the yielding of his own life to a higher law of gravitation. Things released themselves from an exaggerated value and assumed their true proportion. Let this prayer experience be your daily sacrament. A sacrament is your most high consciousness with the most high spirit of all worlds. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come in to him, and I will sup with him, and he with me. Equilibrium of the physical and spiritual forces is true healing. Healing is not force, nor hypnotism, nor willpower. It comes as a spiritual victory and through soul struggle. Having attained to the knowledge of aspiration, transmutation, meditation, command the soul to heal itself, and then open the objective consciousness to watch the work. It is the spirit that heals, that establishes a law in the perceptions. We need to create a center through which the power of the spirit can work. We have nothing to do but to visualize the perfect picture. The spirit does the rest through the illumination of suggestion and the silence. Think of yourself in pictures. Visualize your hopes. He who builds no castles in the air builds no castles anywhere. Every thought and act stirs certain life forces. Therefore, let no force generate which would cancel your desire. It is no part of the result what your opinions are. You are educating your opinions. The process is to be observed, and while you stop to mourn, disintegration and demagnetization are taking place. Mere telling the subconscious will not change the coma. An impression must be made through feeling it must be so. Mere words are often caught in the mental machinery and never get any farther. Convey the impression direct as to what you wish fulfilled. Keep your vision upon that. It becomes a thought matrix for manifestation. How you feel within is the potent power. Never tell the subconscious what not to do. Not is a limitation and inefficient to stamp the desired impulse. Its physiological action was explained under affirmation. The dynamo of environment is the body. To be healed means more than bodily harmony. The radiation of harmonious vibration impresses our homes and business relationships. We magnetize conditions. Look upon every disappointment as an increased opportunity. A door closes, another opens. Be serene, calm, joyful, expectant, saying firmly, I am waiting. I manifest joy into me. Walk beside yourself as a friend and a companion. To suggest health to the soul is to receive it if the conditions are fulfilled. First understand that you are a dreaming soul, that you need to arouse yourself. Be concentrated in your effort and impress the subconscious with what you desire to have realized. To restore normal conditions in another, attain to the silence, and hold in your mind the picture of that one as he should be. See him no other way. Lovingly and often draw this picture to you, thus forming a thought matrix. It will in time become so real a thing that he, too, will glimpse it, and, fed by its vision, come into its own. In the wordless silence, thoughts creates an illimitable universe, vast of space, and sends its message on wings. Send out love and encouragement to all the world. What about getting and having? Is it right to attract our own home to us and the ability to preserve ourselves from being a burden to anyone? The expediency of the everyday facts of existence need not be overlooked or ignored. In any condition of human life, a home and clothing are necessary, and the higher we are in the ascending scale of development, the clearer are our perceptions of the value of a suitable environment. But our circumstances must justify our demands. One might demonstrate a house and lot remote and unavailing to produce the comfort and usefulness that one room might bring. It is perfectly legitimate to demand a home and reasonable income. These are as much a part of us as feathers are to the bird, merely protection. In the matter of food and clothes, a master should be able to exercise his freedom as to how his time and energy shall be conserved. When the church provided homes for its brotherhood, one great distraction was removed. The question of clothes was easily solved. But like all good things, it was abused by being an open door to a mere profession of spiritual goods. And there has never been devised a psychic plummet to take the measure of a human motive. The abuse of a privilege, however, does not argue for its unfitness, and such retreats today offered at the least possible expense and governed by laws of silence and meditation would be a glorious philanthropy. Do the work that lies direct before you, and the purity of your motive will lift you into channels of supply which are legitimate only as they further usefulness. When a horse and a carriage or a motor is a necessary part of your work or forthcoming, it will be forthcoming. But as a magic creation for self-indulgence, it may not materialize. An understanding, spiritual, consecrated consciousness does not demand unrelated things. Life is experience. Mere money may negate experience. The journey up the heights of full awakening may take years, a month, a day. All depends upon the stupor and determined purpose during the moments of awakening and the use of the hours of meditation and prayer. It also requires that you travel light in requiring service from others and carry no heavy baggage of mental and physical self-necessities. When one realizes that the unawakened life is a dreaming out loud, that one thought is as effective as another to provoke action, that only through conscious directed thought and analysis will result in understanding which will eventuate in an awakening that means supremacy, he enters into the life of the spirit which becomes dominant. The senses become mere mechanical devices by which the soul enters upon the large life of mastership, merely guideposts on the path of service. The one who can enter the subliminal consciousness at will knows a happiness that transcends the sense life. He may say, I and the Father are one. He no longer sees himself a separate atom, but lifting his inner eye to the great brooding over self, he bathed in its light, unites himself with its purpose, merges his personality with its impersonality, slips into the great eternal, and the mask of self is nullified. In the transforming process, the small self-interest have become dissolved. The narrow conventions that conform to this and that no longer operate. He is one with all, no joy but increases joy, no pain or grief but he can share. Dumb to self-glorification, praise and blame are alike to him, for he is sensitized to every human need, and the personal sting is deflected. Beautiful surroundings are enjoyed because they are beautiful and harmonious, not because they are a necessity. He can live in the world, but not of it. He can work at those who are ambitious. He can respect life as those who desire it. He can be happy as those who live for happiness. No longer dependent upon human caprice for happiness, he is not offended at anything it may do. He understands. He sees the dreamer dreaming. He seeks experience from the laws of his inner nature. The senses then become symbols of the real. The spirit knows and feels. There is no more war between the spirit and the senses. Everything takes on a new meaning. Home, family, friends, food, nature become mere names for protection, brotherhood, communion. The petty barriers of money and position drop away like magic, and the soul stands naked before God, aware of itself. Some affirmations. I am working for eternal truth which must emerge. I work for its release into this life, whether it be for my own loved ones or for others. I will do the work before me. I bring into manifestation the will of God. Now do I draw the wisdom of my inner life into my conscious mind. Divine Father, thou soul of the universe, I empty myself of self to be filled with thee. Absorb me, animate me, dominate me until merged with thy spirit all the avenues of my being manifest, thy will and thy law. Psalm 23. End of chapter. End of book.